So I'll answer your question, but I'll also tell you that my experience is right now limited to only Arabs because I work at the Arab American Association. But it's a good question because oftentimes we are limited on resources. We are limited on people able to help, right? So if you're talking about people who are able to get here somehow on either a non-immigrant visa or be able to cross the border, there are plenty of organizations that are here in New York, for example, or even across the country that are there to help people wanting to apply for asylum. Here in New York, we have Immigration Equality, a great, great organization that helps LGBTQ communities. But it's not just them. I mean, I have a few LGBTQ clients, and they're mostly from Russia and the Gulf. So I believe you said your question was what happens when they come here and the situation changes in their home country? So I don't know right. So I don't know specifically for people in Chechnya, but there are plenty of organizations out there that are starting to gain some international recognition for the work that they're doing, either going into these cities and trying to get people out to safety and allow them to move to different areas, either in their own country or outside the country. But there has not been too many of them, and obviously the journey is very dangerous for a lot of people. Unfortunately, I can't answer the question about Chechnya because I don't know much about that area. I apologize for that. Yeah, of course. Which group? I'm sorry. Oh, Immigration Equality. It's an organization here in New York, and they mostly help LGBTQ asylum seekers. Yeah. Don't get me started.
I would say yes. But I'm also struck, given the range of not just our disciplinary expertise, but the places that we've talked about, and Stefan talked about it really eloquently in terms of coming both from Appalachia and Iraq, right? And that legally, the struggles aren't the same. You know, U.S. citizens who are facing these kinds of challenges economically and environmentally have, we hope, the rights of U.S. citizens. So I wouldn't want to say that they occupy the same legal regime, but I'm really moved by what you said about ultimately it's not an issue of climate change or whatever. It's about politics and economics and just basic questions of justice and equality. So maybe you want to say a little more about that, or not?
Yeah. Do I need this thing? It just makes it more obvious how stuffed up I am. So sorry. I think. What can I say? I think that for me, and I think I'm sure I'm not alone in this, and I know I'm not alone in this, probably in this room and in this country, but in many countries across the world. I mean, not just here with the global justice movement from the 90s, or the Arab Spring for that matter, knowing that many of us have been trying to crack this nut for a long time. We know that this is a systemic problem. And we've been understandably trying to fight it in all of its instances, all of its iterations, whether it's in human rights or all these what have become practically siloed things. And I think if I were going to say something, would be that my hope is that we're able to now more hopefully move with this moment. If we look at the moment that we're in right now, with the rise in the absence of our making this connection, which is what we have to do right now globally, in the absence of our doing that, ignorance, the minority of ignorance is winning elections. But they're winning elections, this minority, and I don't mean that these people are ignorant. I'm talking about a mentality, what do you call it, a backward mentality. reaction that people are having only because they don't know where else to turn. And that's understandable. And so we have to shine that light, and we have to make, it's not complicated what's going on. And anytime I hear somebody say, oh, it's really complicated, that's actually the least complicated thing. Jesus talked about it, Muhammad talked about it, Buddha talked about it. We all know what's going on. It's not complicated. So I think that that's my hope, is that we're going to make that connection and stop saying that we need to come up with, well, what is the vision for a society? We've known what the vision for society was. We have known for thousands of years. And anybody who says that we don't have a vision or that we need some new philosophical revolution is probably just afraid to say what it is. And that's my hope.
Yeah, I mean, just to add, I was interested in the graph that you showed looking at, who voted for Trump and what you're talking about. I mean, in New York, folks, a lot of Sandy communities voted for Trump, right? And so when we think about what we need to do, I mean, I think education and us as a community understanding how our issues are connected is critical, because I think a lot of people are hurting and they're voting on instinct or for a lot of different reasons, right? But not thinking about how climate change is connected to the economic crisis, how it's all connected. One of my favorite lines from the Water Warriors film is a woman named Suzanne, who talks about how we have to normalize resistance, right? That this is a long-term struggle. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And the kind of success story that we were sharing is only because people were out every day for months on end, fighting against something together in a unified way. The Water Warrior story is a multicultural community coming together to fight against something because they're recognizing all their interests are shared. And so I think the more that we can do that across different issues, particularly in New York, we tend to be siloed around, what's important to us, but it's really critical that we both understand the connections and that we fight in solidarity with each other.
And also, part of the hardest thing, the hardest part of my job is to educate people, because there's a lot of misinformation out there, right? So the world that we live in today, or at least our access to information, it's pretty much like a catch-22, right? So there's a lot of information out there, but there's a lot of bad information out there. So it's quick, it's fast, and that's it. And it's changing people into wanting to just listen to or to read synopsis and quick information. They don't want to sit down and analyze things, and they don't want to understand the process, for example, for how to become a refugee. So I literally spend half my time trying to, I don't want to say argue with people, but talk to people about what the process is about. And then once you sit down with them and you realize, wow, they really don't know a lot about the process, and you don't know who to blame, right? And you don't know what you should do in that instance. I'm not going to go fight the education department and try to figure out how to change the system, but I got to do it at my level, right? And then I guess that's where a lot of us come into play, and we have to do our part in educating ourselves to keep ourselves accountable for the things that are happening around us. And if we don't, this is going to keep happening over and over again. Well, first of all, being here is a great first move, right? So, I'm sorry, do you mind if I ask how old you are? Okay, at 22, I was not sitting where you were sitting. I was still trying to figure out what I should be doing. So, taking what you learn here today and sitting down with your siblings and talking to them and showing them and watching these videos and maybe even taking a trip somewhere. That's enough, right, to open up someone's mind to what's happening out there. And plenty of people that are either voted for Trump or people that I've met who support Trump haven't gone outside of their little towns or their cities, and they don't know what's out there, right? So I think you being here, one, and transmitting the information to your siblings is very, very important. Do you want to talk?
Sam, if you have some advice for a young woman who wants to relay the...
Okay. Well, first of all, show them that there's a whole world out there, and basically, I don't know how old they are. I've never been in this situation. So I think the way I'm going to teach my kid about it is to show him there's a whole world out there. It's not only this piece of land that I call home. There are so many people out there. There are 7 billion people in the world, and this one person who wants to make everything great again at the expense.
Repeat.
Well, maybe it's 3 a.m, so. I said, I mean, show them there's a whole world out there, and it's not only this piece of land that I call home. And this guy who claims to make the homeland great again is not making it because it's at the expense of other people.
I can answer somewhat. I mean, that I can't answer that question. I wish I knew, but although I guess I would say that, and hopefully others will also, and Sam will too. But I can say for myself, I think that we're seeing already across the world a very good and necessary rash of people that are realizing that we have to do something, and that are, you know, like you, like everybody here, working on this now and trying to get more vocal and do things about this. I mean, I'm not the only, my story is not unique. It might seem unique, but I like to think that it's not only not unique, but that as time goes on and more people become more and more intermixed and everything, there's going to be a majority of people like me and you and everybody in the world who know very well that they're from all over, that their families are all mixed up, and that we really are one family, and not some poetic way, in a factual DNA way, like, which we actually already are. And so, and I can only say for myself, that's why I'm doing what I do. It's why I've always done what I've done, and that's why I'm doing Borderless now, is just to say, I don't necessarily know how to create that movement, but I know that, and like in an answer to you, and like everybody here does in their lives, which is amazing in some part, I know that one, storytelling, and as an artist, I can help amplify the voices of people who are doing this amazing work. They're already doing it, as well as the people who are the victims of these major crises. And that's already such a huge thing, because just show them these images, and your little brother and sister, or whoever it is, are going to go, oh my God, they look just like me, or whatever, and bang.
I don't know that it needs to be the last thing, but I think the answer for me to all these questions is to think about all the different kinds of desperate people there are in this country and in the world, and how to figure out how to make them turn towards solidarity rather than xenophobia. I mean, I think that's like the key, and we can look to something like Standing Rock as a model for where people stood up for water, and all kinds of different people, including U.S. veterans, joined them and put their bodies on the line. And we also know what the state and what corporate power will do to people who stand up. So I think the stakes are clear, but the possibility of solidarity has been really inspiring to me. So anyway.
Yeah, just, I mean, it's not, so, I mean, I think a lot of the challenge around is the dehumanization, right? And so the more work that we can do to humanize other people in the world that are facing things, and to combat that, I think that's the key, right? For us to actually sense like what another person's experience is and how it's connected to ours.
I want to thank everyone so much for being here. Thank you all of our